Do you know that South Africa is the only African country that has built nuclear bombs? Why did South Africa decide to build nukes in 1948? How did it build them, and why did it decide to give them up? The answers are complex, although they may hold some lessons. In 1965, South Africa indigenously constructed its first nuclear reactor, called Safari 1, at the Pelindaba nuclear power plant. The decision to build a nuclear program is often shaped by a range of both domestic and international factors. On the one hand, countries that possess nuclear reactors wield great influence with other countries. On the other, pursuing or possessing nuclear weapons can result in economic sanctions against a country. Becoming a pariah on the world stage is a concern for leaders who are considering a nuclear program, especially as countries are increasingly swearing off nuclear weapons. Initially, South Africa's apartheid government maintained close ties abroad, including with the United States, which already had nuclear weapons. In fact, the United States helped build South Africa's first nuclear reactor in 1965 and supplied it with highly enriched uranium, necessary for nuclear weapons. But South Africa was never a formal ally of the United States, which meant that U.S. support was limited. The South African government likely felt that having nuclear weapons would give it a more important role to play on the world stage. When the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT, the main treaty seeking to eliminate nuclear weapons, opened for signature in 1968, South Africa did not sign it. That decision was risky. During the 1970s, its system of apartheid and refusal to sign the NPT increasingly isolated South Africa. It couldn't participate in the UN General Assembly, for example, which also encouraged member countries to sanction the country. The US government suspended aid to South Africa, and its athletes were even barred from participating in the Olympics and international cricket and rugby events. Yet that pressure did not curb South Africa's nuclear ambitions. The country's leaders at the time believed its international isolation was tied to apartheid, not its nuclear program. They thought that nuclear weapons would protect the country from security threats, not extend its exile. In 1991, South Africa volunteered to forego its nuclear reactor program on the instructions of the apartheid government to the incoming ANC leadership, which entailed that the only nuclear technology in Africa was taken away without a fight to the African oppressors for free. That is part of the legacy of the negotiations and their much-hyped sunset clauses in South Africa for the dispossession of everything worthy in exchange for nothingness. Western propaganda hails the South African 1994 democratic elections worthy of praise, when reality dictates that they deserve shun. On a clean platter, indigenous South Africans, and by extension, all Africans, were robbed of the potential to have ships that use nuclear energy for food, nuclear energy for electricity, and the ability to challenge the hegemony of the UN Security Council head-on. Like Israel, Africa is emasculated from the 1994 general elections in South Africa. It was a farce. It gave people a paper called Constitution. It took away everything for their livelihoods. It took land and resources available to them. Most countries fight to have a nuclear program in operation. South Africa possessed nuclear warheads. It gave them away for free in what is highly acclaimed as the dawn of democracy, couched in the veil of theft and weakness for security in all manner of industry and livelihoods. South Africa was the only country in Africa that had the power to challenge any country in the world one-on-one for security. All African countries could look up to South Africa for safety. The exaggerated Mandela miracle was a sellout, in practical terms. Black South Africans own nothing in their name generally, with a formal title deed for the proceeds of industry for their benefits. White South Africans maintain their economic hegemony.